SFTP locations if I allow my branches to deliver documents by FTP. Or I can set up this station to monitor my email, and it can watch specific email boxes for any incoming messages and then take any attachments from those messages and automatically register them for processing with classification and extraction. So that's a very flexible station with multiple possible front ends, anywhere from direct integrations with MFP panels up to FTP and email imports are all part of that auto-registration station. No matter if it's originated through scan station or auto-registration station, the next step is the badge gets registered in the server environment and the server looks for the next available recognition station. There is no station available, server will queue that job based on its priorities. And when the station becomes available, it will receive that badge working with. When recognition station gets the badge, it starts with image pre-processing. Things like DISPECL, DISQ, compensation of any scanning defects, rotating image to the proper orientation. That's a typical image pre-processing operations. Then goes the classification and data extraction. Classification will be able to tell what document type it is without that manual tedious pre-sorting. And then extraction will jump on it, knowing what type it is, and extract the fields necessary to be captured from that document type. Finally, recognition station applies the business logic rules. So if you set up some field that they need to be matching your database records, or maybe that vendor need to be matching our records in accounting system, those cross-checks can be done automatically. You can also do a lot of mathematical cross-checks, such as auto-reconciliations on your line item detail portion, or mathematical checks across different fields of the document. There are numerous other document data validity checks in the system. They're all available out of the box, wizard-based, don't need to use programming to set them up, which means more users can use them in real production. After that is done, recognition station returns the badge to the server, and then the server looks what the workflow dictates as a next step. Some of the batches might be flowing through workflows which are 100% automatic, and then it will probably go directly through the export station to the back end. Other workflows include a review station, and so the operator would receive it as the next step. If operator receives a badge, the operator's job is to review any questions, answer any questions about discrepancies that docAlpha asks, and finalize the selection that docAlpha recognition station did. So it can be based on a character level, based on confidence. You can set up a threshold, how far you trust an OCR engine. Anything dropping below that threshold will be verified by operator. Or at the field level, you can say field is required. Anytime it's missing, there will be a warning, and operator will have to have a look at it. Or any of the rules which were validating the data in the field or cross-checking the field find the discrepancy. Then the rule would highlight one or more fields involved in that check as the area to look at. And then finally, at the document level or even at the batch level, there might be some questions about the classification results. So, for example, if you are processing mortgage applications and you were expecting to see at least a dozen of documents which are absolutely required to process an application, then if one of those required ones is missing, you would see a warning from the batch assembly rules that at the batch level, that is an incorrect set of documents because some of the required documents are missing in the batch. So there might be multiple levels where operator's attention is required, and that is fully configurable in your workflow settings. You can determine at which levels and how much attention of operator you would like to use in a specific workflow. When operator finishes, goes back to the server, and from there flows to the export station, another unmanned fully automatic station which connects to all of the back-end systems. Just a couple of words there. On the back-end system, this is a very flexible system. It supports single or multiple export at the same time, and it can store data, metadata, and images in original format or reformat it to any other format or compressions that you want. And it can go to such destinations as file systems with typical TXT, CSV, XML, Excel formats. It can go to databases, can go directly to databases or through OLADB. ODBC has built-in optimization for SQL, for Oracle, and it also is integrated tightly at an API level with many popular backend systems. So for example, if your backend is a SharePoint, there is a SharePoint connector which can talk to a SharePoint server anywhere from 2003 to 2010 and connect there and post the images and data into that destination. Same story is true about FileBound, DocuWare, DocuLex, Alchemy, and many more connectors. There's a whole list of those connectors available. You can see the whole list through the partner portal. The export station, after releasing all the information to all the destination, reports that success to the server, and then the server can either drop the data from temporary internal database or it can keep it for retention policy, which is a nice option. The retention period allows you to reprocess a job if additional documents from the same batch arrive later on, and you would rather reprocess an existing batch than having to register a new job in the system. That's another possibility of the system. Those stations on the lower side of the diagram, they're not part of production. They're set up in monitoring stations. Monitoring allows you to connect locally or remotely and see what's going on in the system, how many operators are working, how many stations are running, how many jobs in the system, at which steps of production those jobs are. And you can also do last-minute resources shuffling, like this batch has to be specifically finished by Peter. Admin station is a place where you deploy the workflows. You create a workflow there. You tell what is the front end, what is the back end, any parameters used during the processing, such as cleanup or which document types to expect or what kind of classification to use. And then finally, the design station is a place where you can add more document definitions to the system, and you can also review anything that you had originally with the system and make changes to those original. The whole system is built entirely on Microsoft.NET using service-oriented architecture. So unlike most other capture systems on the market which are maintaining the old code from Comera, this system is entirely .NET, so it's a 100% managed code capture system, which is a great benefit for large organizations on architectural side. It is built using TCP/IP, SOAP, and XML. It communicates between the stations using Windows Communication Foundation protocols, and it allows you doing such things as comprehensive bidirectional encoding, and that encryption works in 1024-bit mode with a double key. So it's very highly secure mode, and that's what enables you to use it in widely distributed applications across Internet, for example. Many stations run as Windows services. Start it once on a server, and it just silently crunches your batches. And as I mentioned, it's all batch-based, can process structured, semi-structured form, classical capture, classification plus capture, or just pure classification. Well, it's time for a demo, so I'll minimize my slides here and share the screen with the stations to run the demo. In here, I have opened up a classification sample workflow in my admin station. Very simple workflow, 4 steps. Starts with registration station, then recognition station, then simple capture review station, and finally an export station. 3 out of 4 are fully automatic, registration, recognition, and export. They are running as unattended Windows services. So here, if you have a look down on services list of that server, you notice that a couple services are running right there as Windows services configured to be restarting automatically anytime the server reboots. Now, if I do want to see what those services are doing on server end, I can connect to them and visualize what they're busy with. For example, that one is registration station window, that one is recognition, that one is export. So even the servers are unattended, no user interface, you can connect to them and see what they're doing, and that's what I'm using for this demo. If you notice, it's watching across many different locations, and each location is connected to a specific workflow. So something scanned into this folder will be processed as claim action, a set of medical claims. Something processed here will be processed as dental claims, here as invoices, here is purchase orders, here is generic AP. So there might be multiple workflows, each one originating from its source, and each workflow inside the workflow can have multiple document types with automatic classification. So it means that you can very flexibly deploy it for your organizational needs. Some of those sources are not even the folders. If you see that one is an FTP location and this one is an email address, that's some other capabilities of that station. Now, as my next step, I'll just grab some sanitized images and I'll throw them into a hot folder. So I'll copy some sanitized images here, and I'll go to hot folder, and I'll paste those images there. So I grab a couple dozen images and drop them to a folder. Now, this might be receiving by fax, or this might be scanning remotely from one of the branch offices to a VPN folder, and we are just watching this folder and processing it automatically. If you look up on registration station, it says processing classification hot folder. That message means that it's actually already noticed that we pasted some images, and it's in the process of registering those images with the system. My conditions of registration, what I've set up for that workflow, was register as soon as you have 50 images or as soon as you had 30 seconds timeout from receiving the last image, whatever happens first. So the system, in my case, I copied only 2 dozen, so the first thing that will happen will be a timeout, that no more images coming within the 30 seconds. If you look down in the hot folder, you notice that those images are actually gone. They were picked up by the system, and now it waited that allowed timeout to see if more are coming. This is one of the methods of registering your badges. Another popular method is to use the subfolder. So you can point the system to the location on the network and say, well, any subfolder of that root folder for me is a batch of documents. And please go through all the subfolder recursive structure, run through all of it, and any folder there just register as a new batch for operation. So there's multiple ways of registering the batches in automatic mode. Now, registration is finished, and if you look down on recognition station, that batch is already received there. It's doing page number 7, number 8, number 9, number 10, number 11. So you can actually see the process going there. It shows you the currently recognized page number right in there, the total number of pages received, the batch number, so it's a unique ID that can be used for tracking this job. You can also track by batch parameters. So not only I can track by the automatic IDs, but I can assign parameters, and those parameters can be coming from multiple locations. So for example, if I'm using a scan station, operator can assign the registration parameters. If I'm using automatic pickup, I can utilize metadata, how I acquired it, for the batch tracking parameters. That's another option quite popular on a field because it allows you to do the tracking based on meaningful parameters from your job operations. It's already recognizing the last page here, page 21, sending out and waiting for the next job. So we've seen that full job of couple dozen documents fully processed here on recognition station, and it took us only about 30 seconds to finalize. So it's not a hard job. If my notebook can do that much, then the real server can do more in realistic environments. That means that this system can operate many, many times faster than a human would to do the classification and extraction. Well, the next step in my workflow is an operator-based station, the Simple Capture Station. So I'm switching my interface to Simple Capture Station. I'll give it a couple seconds so your screens can refresh. And you should be able to see